think it's hard to remember what television was like pre-50 years ago, and how for about 15 years it was really locked in a rhythm that didn't evolve with the generation that grew up on it. And you have these really talented writers and actors who captured what they thought was funny, because you could only really find comedy out in the world, and improv shows and comedy houses, and people weren't watching television. And it really took, like, writers had no control. It was really hard getting something made that you thought was funny. It was an older kind of patriarch that was in charge of everything, and they really had to break through. And I think that's something that's, you know, people might forget about these days.
I think I was surprised that, I guess not surprised by, but like, I wasn't really familiar with Rosie as much, and so like, to me, and then like once talking to her and learning about her, I was like, she was such an integral part of like making SNL what it is today, and so I'm excited for more people to learn about her.
I really enjoyed how Lorne knew everyone that he hired, all the writers and actors. Like, Lorne knew Aykroyd from when, you know, he was 16, teaching him improv in Toronto, and how Dan and Valerie Bromfield were writing partners on the Hart and Lorne Terrific Hour for the CBC 5 years before SNL, and just how he knew Rosie or Chevy from the Lampoon, or you know, how he knew Gilda from the Toronto improv scene. And I thought that was really special, in getting to build these relationships with the actors playing these characters.
Jason, like, really had a plan, like, in an amazing way. Like, he blocked all of everything with stand-ins before we came to shoot, and like, it's such a good feeling. You were sort of saying this earlier, but you like walk on set, there's all these people, it's like, you're like, well, fuck, this is gonna be chaotic, and then it's like not, and you're like, huh, who planned this? And it's like, Jason. But that was such an amazing thing to feel like, oh, he has a vision, he has a plan, and he's guiding us all, and yeah, it was really great.
He was so genuinely in love with the thing, like,
Yeah.
He was so excited, and that's like really nice from like your captain, you know, and like it was so sweet too. Like you could tell his like heart was fully in it in a way that I think really comes through the final product too, which is a really cool piece. And yeah, I guess whenever your director is like so genuine, like he would literally just stop and just be like, guys, this is the greatest time of my life. You know what I mean? He'd say things like that, and you're like, awesome.
Yeah.
Wait,
so great that you feel that way,
Yeah.
Go on.
I had a year to get to know Jason and hang out and watch movies at his place, and he is just so kind and so genuine and humble and passionate about what we're making, and he's been working with the same people since he was 15 years old. He builds such a family in his production team, in the actors he works with. He always works with the same people because they want to work with him. I would love to work with Jason again. He made everyone feel so comfortable and confident, and he did such a great job of getting us out of our heads and making us feel like we belong there and we should be there. And he demanded to have fun in the best way, and he celebrated everybody's birthday, whether you were in the camera department, an actor, a stand-in,
So many birthdays,
a background
it was like
artist,
every day someone had a birthday.
a mariachi band or Marilyn Monroe impersonator would come in, and he just hung out and had board games at his place on the weekends, and like it felt really intimate. Like, it really felt like you were just making something with important people in your life, and you just wanted it to be good. I think watching a film that was shot on real film, 16 millimeter, I think film just looks better on the screen with the grain and the colors that pop out of it. But I think it is so much fun. It is so funny. It's so thrilling. You're on the edge of your seat. And when you get to experience that with people and laugh as a collective at this thing that's referencing something that everyone's already familiar with, it's really unifying because not a lot of people are watching the same movies these days. There's not as much unity in the movie theater, and I think this can really bring people together in the best way. I had so much fun watching this and making it. I really hope people feel the same way.
Hit it.
Saturday Night is about the epic show of the inception of Saturday Night Live and how it almost did not happen. What people don't know about behind the scenes of a television show is that it's very chaotic. There are a lot of volatile people. Yeah, 100%. Even putting together this junket, I'm sure there are a lot of hiccups and problems. You know what I mean? If there's a camera involved, there's crew, if there's people, if there's personalities, it can be a mess. And so imagine what it was like back then when they were putting together something that no one knew what it was going to be, but 50 years later, you see exactly what it is. So.
It's pretty infectious. And I have to say the level of detail that everyone poured into their roles, like my jaw was on the floor the whole time watching. And it wasn't just the principal performers. The background actors were devoted as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, they were amazing. Jason had done boot camp for all of the background team.
Yeah.
And so they really knew how to be camera operators and grips and costumers. And so entering the set and having all these background performers already functioning as people who work on a crew, it was a little bit like a dream within a dream, or like a little trippy at times, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize that Garrett smoked so many cigarettes.
Ah.
I'm gonna leave it at that. He smoked a lot, and this man still smokes. Stop it, Garrett. But I don't know, man. There's something about like doing it that puts you in the character, and so I'm very grateful for that. That one little thing. You know, Jason told me in a scene. He goes, "I noticed you don't have the cigarette in this particular scene." I was like, "Yeah, I do want to have it in every scene." He goes, "Use it." He goes, "Yeah, I would do it. I would do it in every time we see you. It'd be great if you had a cigarette." And I thought, awesome. I'm gonna do that.
I spent a lot of time paranoid that I wouldn't capture the Chevy that everyone knows and is like beloved. You know, he's a very confident, deeply charismatic person that America and the world kind of fell in love with overnight, and he had this amazing career. But it's like out of curiosity, I wanted to understand his childhood and where he came from. You know, comedians are often people that are deeply complicated. There's a reason someone seeks out comedy. And reading about his childhood and how he came up and how he found comedy and why he found comedy and how he developed his particular sense of dry comedy, that was really fascinating. You know, even as an actor who admires other actors, obviously, you don't always know how people become these people or what their life story is. And it was fun for me to figure out and learn the vulnerable, nervous, hopeful, optimistic side of a young Chevy and show that underneath this outer layer of confidence and charisma. That was the most fun for me.
I feel like we know Gilda for her genius comedy and the way that she inhabited her characters. But I had the tremendous pleasure of speaking to Alan Zweibel, who was one of Gilda's best friends and key collaborators. They wrote Rosanna Dana together. And the thing that was most striking about speaking to Alan was the stories of Gilda's kindness. She was such a generous person. And she had this way of he told me this story about, as an example of her generosity, or her eye for capturing anyone in need and making them feel good in a space. She told me this story about this grip that was new to the set 3 weeks into the first season. He turned up on set, didn't know anyone. It seemed quite anxious. And Gilda leant over to someone and asked what his name was, and then went over and went, "Hi, I'm Gilda." And then Alan is walking through the stage a few minutes later, and he sees that this new grip is now giving Gilda a piggyback. Gilda just had this way of making people feel at home, and we have a lovely moment like that in our movie where Gilda gets on the lap of the chap crane operator. She was also a flirt. So I think it was generative for her, going and being a little naughty with someone and making someone feel desired. even if it's just in a friendship way. He really knows what he wants, and he's very thoughtful in the way that he gives direction, but he's also up for just being clear with you. He's confident in the space. That was really...
There's a lot of moving parts in this. It's a lot of moving parts. He's not just dealing with actors. He's also dealing with the fact that we're shooting on film, but we're also shooting in some aspects of this through old broadcast television cameras as well. So there is the choreography of getting the background to move a certain way. Never have I ever been on a set like this where the background is just as important as the to the story as the principal actors.
The attention to detail.
Everything. And he was like a maestro. You know what I mean? Move here, let's do this, let's have the camera here, say the line here, even pitching jokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I say he is doing it all, he's truly doing it all. It was a master class on, I wish young directors could have been here to watch him do what he was doing, because I've been on a lot of sets and I've worked with a lot of great directors. In this particular film, I mean, he had so many hats on that it was just a joy to sit back and be coached and be directed.
Yeah, and it was truly a circus. He spent a couple months designing every shot and working with stand-ins ahead of time. He really knew the exact movie that he wanted to make. What he and our cinematographer, Eric Steelberg, did in this, creating this frenetic energy with that kind of camera movement and in these long tracking shots, it's not only is the framing beautiful and his ability to choreograph who's coming in and out of frame, but constantly being able to control the dynamic that the audience should be able to feel of like frenetic energy, at different points, and turning the volume up and down on that. And then, like, for example, settling in with Garrett and Jane Curtin for a moment and letting her do this like weird, freaky monologue. And then suddenly we're like back into, I'm so impressed. And it was an honor watching him work and learning from him.
Yeah, he's also incredibly inventive. Like, Eric and Jason and Gil are really pushing the boundaries of kind of what you can do in a confined space. Like, the way that they were navigating the space together and capturing the shots was just like, I was such a kid in a candy shop watching.
Oh yeah, even how collaborative he is with the actors. You talk about that scene with Kim that we had in the rafters.
So much.
Jason rewrote that. Kim and Jason rewrote that. They kind of tooled that, to what she felt in that moment.
And it was so tailored to Kim's
so good.
Yeah, and her performance style as well. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen often. You know what I mean? Even for me, we had spoken a little bit about some of the changes that I felt like should have been made, and Jason was like, "Let's do it." Jason was so like open to the process. He doesn't have an ego. You know what I mean? He's like, I want to make a great film.
Truly.
And that's why I cast you. Let's work. Let's make this thing happen. And being on a set like that is rare. It's very rare. Shot this thing on film. It looks fantastic.
It looks amazing.
Beautiful.
It looks beautiful.
It's fun. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, go.
It's fun to giggle with a crowd.
Amen.
It's a funny movie. It's like go and laugh out loud.
Yeah, I got to watch it for the first time with Ella, and I think there were just 6 of us in this theater.
Felt like more.
It did feel like more, but I'm so excited. This is my first comedy, and though I've had funny moments in dramas, I'm really looking forward to the premiere. Which we haven't experienced yet. Maybe you'll see this afterward. But I'm really looking forward to this premiere, being in a comedy and watching this in a theater filled with people. This is honestly going to be like a very special moment for me. And also just visually, back to what we were saying about Jason, the way he's choreographed all of this happening, to see this on a massive screen, the energy of this film, I think is the best way to see it. It feels experiential when you're watching it. And I think to be inundated with a big picture is the way to do it.
Before there was a Lonely Island, before there was a Please Don't Destroy, before there was an Adam Sandler or a Will Ferrell, Lorne Michaels put together a show that changed television forever. He and a group of actors and writers in their early 20s literally just ripped television out of the hands of the previous generation and changed comedy as we know it. I wanted to make a movie about the 90 minutes leading up to the first episode. What was it like to be in the building before they changed television forever? The villain of this movie is a ticking clock. It was a 90-page script and a 90-minute movie. We wanted you to feel the minute-by-minute experience of what it was like leading up to the countdown. We had to choreograph these, it's almost like making a dance movie. There's a choreography to the whole thing. Every actor has a story. There's 80 speaking roles, there's 80 background actors, and every one of them has an arc. Gil Kennan, my co-writer, and I needed to actually understand where every prop, every set piece, every llama was going to be for the extent of the film. So whether you see them on screen or not, we were tracking 50 different plot lines as they all found their way to 11:30 p.m. I've never made a movie with this much choreography. We built a 2-story set. We recreated 30 Rock inch by inch, and every day, every actor was there, every background actor was there, and we would start every morning at call time at home base, and I would bring out a whiteboard, and I would actually draw out where everyone needed to be like a football play. I was the coach, and I would draw out the play, and then we'd go break, and then everyone would go to their places, and we would start shooting. On Saturday night, we did something that I had never done before. I personally cast every background actor in person. We did 2 days where I interviewed every extra, got to know them, their name, their backstory, take a Polaroid of them, and then I'd write down on the Polaroid, this one's going to be a camera person. She's going to be a sound person. He's going to be, hair and makeup, wardrobe, set deck. And then we put them all through a boot camp and we taught them how to do their jobs. And by the end of the shoot, they're moving the cameras, moving the sets, doing the sound. Honestly, we got to a point where our actual camera operator, Matt Moriarty, who's one of the greatest in the world, went to our camera operator, Rocky, and told him to do a shot, and Rocky's response was, I don't know, Matt, it's not a very balanced shot. As you watch Saturday Night, I want you to remember that every day of shooting, by 3 in the morning, there was a group of hundreds of people putting the actors through hair, makeup, costume. We had to prepare 80 speaking roles, 80 background actors to fill this room and make it come to life the way you see it on screen. Early in our research, we found these screen tests of the original cast from Saturday Night Live, Gilda Radner, John Belushi, Chevy Chase, for the first time going on camera and being the personas that we would come to know well. So we wanted to recreate these, and one day I just kind of jumped the cast with this. We set up a green screen, we set up an arc of chairs, and the cast sat down, and I told them to interview each other. Each person went up, and they got to recreate those green screens, and they were so good that we decided to open the film with it. Jon Batiste is pulling double duty on this film. He's playing Billy Preston, but he also wrote our original score. And we decided to do something we had never seen before. Jon wrote and recorded the entire original score live on set. Every day at Wrap, Jon and his band would get into their street clothes, go back to 8H. I would show them rough cuts of scenes on a laptop, and then Jon would literally just point to one instrumentalist and say, all right, I want you to start on an A flat, go to a B, go to a G, and then you go to a percussionist and say, all right, you with the shaker, and we go, and he would compose these ideas live on set, and that's where we recorded them. When you start to look at the history of SNL, it is a wonder that it ever made it to air. They had everything against them, and, a network that actively really wanted to just show Johnny Carson reruns on Saturday night. But like anyone who changes culture, there are obstacles. There is a gauntlet. And this group of young writers and young actors had to rip television out of the hands of the previous generation to change comedy as we know it. Before there was an Adam Sandler, before there was a Will Ferrell, before there was a Lonely Island or a Please Don't Destroy, there was Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, Garrett Morris, Dan Aykroyd, actors who changed comedy as we know it. And we needed in this movie to portray that original 7 actors the moment before they became famous. Dan Aykroyd once said to me, in the hours leading up to SNL, all I was thinking was, hey, I still have a snowplow up in Toronto, so I got a job waiting for me. They didn't know they were going to be famous. They didn't know that they were going to change comedy. And I needed to find actors who could portray that moment on the brink of stardom, on the brink of changing culture, and yet still a group of kids in their early 20s. Well, it's not one of my movies if J.K. Simmons is not in it. He is my muse, and I knew from the moment I started writing this film that J.K. Simmons would have to play Milton Berle, and he was perfect. This is my first time working with Willem Dafoe, and it was a thrill for me and the entire cast. On day one, Willem was just sitting up in the audience looking down at the young actors, and they kept on coming up to me going, I can't believe Willem is just watching us work. Finally, Willem came down to me and he said, you know what I like about your movie? No edge of frame. I don't know what the fuck is happening.